Hi and welcome back to Garden Ninja for the November tour. And you wouldn't believe that in a month we've gone from having things almost in flower to suddenly all these herbaceous perennials having a rest for the winter, turning brown. You might be able to hear the geese are flying south for the winter. But it's been a really interesting month and I want to give you some top tips for what you can do in your own gardens in November. And I know it can be a bit wet, but there's still plenty to do, so come on, let's get cracking. If you've not already subscribed to my YouTube channel, hit the red button to subscribe today. Also click the bell for notifications. We'll have access to hundreds of garden design hints, tips and hacks from me, the Garden Ninja. And best of all, it's free. There's an interesting phenomenon going on in my garden, and that phenomenon are microclimates. You may have read about these online, about how different parts of gardens can have different climates, and it's no more true than here in the Exploding Atom garden. Now if you look behind me and you look up there, we've got an Acer campestre. It's kind of turning a bit brown as it goes into autumn, but the majority of the leaves are still green. If I spin around here, oh look, the same tree species is much further on. That's a good 2 or 3 weeks further on than the one behind me. Now why is that? Well, the main reason is this tree here is more exposed. It's in a more exposed position, it gets a colder wind, so the microclimate is colder in this corner than it is over there where it's slightly more protected. And you can see the difference, and it's really important because in any garden design or planning, microclimates will impact the way that your plants grow. And more often than not I hear from people saying, I bought 3 of these plants, 2 are great, 1's awful. And when I ask about where they've positioned them, they usually find that they're in different positions in the garden and one may be in a slightly different microclimate to the others. So it's worthwhile bearing that in mind and working out before you plant things whether it's going to be in a cold position, a more sheltered position, sunny, shady, because all plants will react slightly differently to those different positions. And I think this is a really good example of it. And if you've got problems in your own garden with things in different positions, changing colours at different times, don't panic, it's probably just a microclimate. Now is a really good time of year to do an annual health check of your fruit trees. In particular, you want to look for suckers, which are basically shoots that come off below the graft of the fruit tree. Now these suckers are growth from the original rootstock and they can zap energy from the rest of the tree. Now this green gauge behind me had loads of suckers on, which earlier this month I pruned off, and I'm going to show you how to do that now. Now it's really important that you use sharp, clean secateurs to cut back these suckers or water shoots back to the original main trunk, because these are growth from the original rootstock that will take energy away. You want to take them all off. And if you're not sure where the graft is, just follow up from the base of the tree near the ground, up, up, up until you feel a small bump, and that's usually the graft. And I'm going to do a close-up to show you that now. Now November is also an excellent time for collecting seeds from herbaceous perennials, and I'm going to show you an example here with this Jerusalem cross. It's gone to seed, some of it's already fallen out, but now is a prime time to get in there and capture the seed heads, and then you can grow your own from seed next year. And it's a really good economical way to propagate your plants without having to go to garden centres or spend a fortune on potted plants. So let me show you that now. So what we do to collect seed is we cut the seed head off. And then I'm going to do a close-up, but you'll see that on a lot of herbaceous perennials they have like a little capsule that the seeds are housed in. You can actually see some of the seeds inside these little capsules. And the seeds are in these little cups. If you take one of those off, if you can see here, if we crush it, look at all those little Jerusalem cross seeds. There we go. And you can then plant those next year. Now, if you remember back to last year, I was sowing some primrose seeds, and I was talking about how fussy they can be and that you need to stratify the seeds, which means that the seeds need to be tricked into thinking that it's winter. So they need a really cold spell followed by a blast of energy, and then they'll germinate. Now, I was going to stratify them by basically leaving them outside in a cold frame in this tray and seeing if they would germinate. I left them for over 8 months, nothing happened, and because I was busy, I basically just popped this in my do not disturb corner where I try and hide away bits of the garden that I'm not quite ready to do something with. But look at this. We've actually got one that is germinated. Now, something's been nibbling it, so I need to liberate it. But it kind of proves a point that even if you're a bit lazy like me, mainly because you've been busy working, if you leave things long enough, Mother Nature will take over. And although that looks pretty naff, if I pop that in the ground today, I know that by next February, March, I may have some beautiful vanilla-coloured primrose vulgaris flowers, which are beautiful. So I'm really impressed with that, even though the rest of the tray is just filled full of all sods and sorts that have managed to escape into there. But yeah, give it a go. So I've also got some other really exciting news, Garden Ninjas, which is next year I'm also going to be back on BBC One's Garden Rescue. We've filmed 19 shows this year, which is a huge amount, and there's been some really exciting and slightly bonkers designs of mine featured in the show, and I really can't wait for you to see them. This year I did 5, next year I'm doing 19. Who knows what I'll do the year after. But I've really appreciated all of your support this year, and it's been fantastic to get my designs and the Garden Ninja way of gardening out there to the masses. So if you've enjoyed them, please let me know below, and make sure you pop in any comments or suggestions, and I'll try and factor them into the next series. But it's been a really exciting process, very fast, but I've loved being able to take the garden design brief and draw up my designs using my watercolours and showing them to the nation. And hopefully it will encourage even more people to join the Garden Ninja revolution and get gardening. And it's that time of year when I need to start cutting back some of these herbaceous perennials. Last year I left it until the middle of February, but it was just too much to do in one sitting. So this year I'm going to do it in stages. I'll probably leave the grasses till last because they look really nice during the winter months. But with the sharp pair of secateurs, cut back any herbaceous perennials that have gone brown and crispy, and you can either compost them, use them in flower arranging, or even make little firelighters out of them. Now behind me, I've got 5 heritage apple trees, which basically means that they're rare species that run the risk of possibly dying out unless people graft them and propagate them to keep them going. Now these are about 4 years old, but if you look behind me, they've done absolutely incredibly well. Now this one does need restaking and tying because it's outgrown this stake, but there's 5 of them and I pruned them this year and they are so vigorous. But you can see that they've got different growth habits. Some are more vigorous than others, and that's down in part to the species of apple tree, because the rootstocks are all the same. So some will be more vigorous than others. But over time, this is going to turn into a beautiful mini orchard. Now these will be fine in any size garden because they're controlled by that smaller rootstock. So if you've got the time and the inclination, why not book on to a fruit tree grafting course? And they usually run in the winter because that's usually the ideal time to graft fruit trees. And in a couple of years, you can have your own heritage varieties of apples, pears and plums and help keep this lineage going. It's a really exciting part of gardening. Have you got gardening questions that you need answers for? Well, why not head over to the Garden Ninja forum on my blog, where you can ask me anything about gardens, plants and garden design. There's a whole army of other garden ninjas there that can help provide answers to your questions. It's a really great way to meet the other ninjas, so head over there now. And that brings us neatly to the end of the November tour. It's really chilly here in the garden, so I'm going to get inside for a brew. But if you've liked this video, please make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel by hitting the subscribe button below. You can also hit the bell for notifications, where you'll find hundreds of garden design hints, tips and hacks to help you make your gardens awesome. I've been Garden Ninja. Happy gardening. soon.